Your faithfulness stretches to the sky.
Good morning, Creek. I hope you are enjoying the extended weekend with family and friends. This last week, I celebrated my birthday, number 61, and I am appreciative of all of the phone calls, the texts, the cards. I felt the love, man. Thank you very, very much. Today I want to dive into Psalms 61, one of my favorite Psalms. You received a verse yesterday out of Psalms 61. I've loved it for years, especially the first couple of verses. But what I want to do is I want to read the whole Psalm to you, break down a little bit of it. And I have a good friend of mine that is a pastor over in Kansas City that is going to be kind of sharing his testimony at the end. It is very, very powerful. God showed up in a big way in his life, and I think it'll be a blessing to you. Psalm 61. Hear my cry, O God. Attend to my prayer. From the end of the earth, I will cry to you. When my heart is overwhelmed, lead me to the rock that is higher than me. For you have been my shelter for me, a strong tower from my enemy. I will abide in your tabernacle forever. I will trust in the shelter of your wings. For you, O God, have heard my vows. You have given me the heritage of those that fear your name. You will prolong the king's life, his years as many generations. He shall abide before God forever. Oh, prepare mercy and truth, which may preserve me. So I will sing praise to your name forever, that I may daily perform my vows. And Lord, this morning we ask for you to come and join us. God, as we talk about the rock in what you mean in our life, the stability and the strength that comes with who you are. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. I have had the privilege to have been in over 20 countries. I think 23 to be exact. And I have noticed one thing in my travels or missionary journeys or whatever you'd like to call it, that people take you to higher ground to show you their city or countryside. It happens almost every time I'm somewhere. I have been in Ireland to the Cliffs of Moher. It's the first time that the Atlantic Sea hits land, and it's powerful and beautiful, and you can see the ocean lapping up against the cliffs. I've been in a castle in Ljubljana, Slovenia, which is probably the most beautiful city I've ever been to. They call it Little Prague. And from that vantage point, you can see the city and the beauty of the countryside. And there's a college there, and students are everywhere. And I've been in the cliffs outside of Lima, Peru. And you could see way up on the foothills little people marching as ants, if you may. I've been in the Sears Tower in Chicago, way up and looking at the city, and it's absolutely beautiful. The Space Needle in Seattle. I remember being in Albania, and up in the cliffs of Albania, and it took forever to climb up, and we drove and then we climbed up, and there was a shepherd there. He had a few sheep by him, and then his whole little herd, I'd say 50 or 60 sheep were down, kind of down in this little valley. Adriatic Sea in front of me, Mother Teresa Airport behind me. That's Albania's claim to fame, is that Mother Teresa was born there. And so naturally they named the airport after it. Anyway, those cliffs brought that shepherd stability. He could see from his vantage point all of his sheep. And I had an interpreter, and I asked him why he was there. And he said that if I'm up high, I can see any danger that would happen to come to my herd from where I'm at. David said in this song, God, take me to a place that is higher than me. I'm emotionally overwhelmed in leading the children of Israel in the ins and out of his daily duties. Will you transport me to a place that is higher than me? I was thinking about this song, and I was thinking about how sometimes we get overwhelmed and we want God to hear our cry. I want you to know that there is a safe place that has stability that is higher than you and your emotions and your feelings. Now, I am sure that some of us during the last 18 months, 20 months, have felt overwhelmed. Mask mandates. I'm not going to wear a mask. Get vaccinated. I'm not going to get vaccinated. And people are all over the board with things. I thought with the beginning of school and the educators that we have in our church and around the world, that it's an overwhelming time. Some people's opinions on what you should do, how you should handle this, in-class learning, virtual learning. I am sure, without a shadow of a doubt, that some of you are overwhelmed. It's hard and it's arduous, and decisions that you have to make, you never studied for or never signed up for, and it's got to be very difficult. And I'm sure your emotions and your feelings are all over the board. I'm sure you're stressed and you're angry and you just want to do the right thing. Those educators in our church, the counselors and teachers and administrators, I know firsthand from you how hard it is. I say to you, Psalm 61. I would soak on it through the school year. I would want you to know in times of being overwhelmed that there is a rock that is higher than you. And from that vantage point of the rock, from that vantage point, it is a safe place for you. The Bible teaches in Matthew chapter 7, verse 24 through 27, therefore, whoever hears these words of mine and does them, I will liken him unto a wise man who has built his house on the rock. The rain descended, the floods came, the winds blew and beat on the house, and it did not fall, for it was founded on the rock. But everyone who hears these sayings of mine and does not do them will be like a foolish man who's built his house on the sand. And the rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat on the house, and it fell, and it was a great fall. So God says in life, there's gonna be rain and storms and tempests. But if your spiritual house is built on the rock, you will be able to withstand that. I think about those of you in healthcare and the decisions that need to be made every single day, every 15 minutes in what you face. Like the educators and those in healthcare, we thank you for being on the front lines. And I know it has to be overwhelming for you. We pray for you and we lift you up. We just heard a couple of weeks ago from a guy in our church, Rob, about the mental health crisis that's going on and how it is rampant throughout our community, cities, states, wherever. That's got to be hard and stressful and tough. But if our house is built on the rock, when all of that stuff comes, you can take it to a place that is higher than you. In 1 Corinthians chapter 10, 1 through 4, the Bible says, moreover, brethren, I do not want you to be unaware that all of our fathers that were under the cloud, all passed through the sea, were baptized into Moses in the cloud and the sea, all ate the same spiritual food, all drank the same spiritual drink, for they drank of that spiritual rock that followed them. Well, who in the world was following them when Moses had all of those people and the children of Israel, and when he struck that rock and water came and gushed and gushed and gushed? And that rock was Christ. I'm saying to you, there is a rock that is higher than you, higher than your emotions. And you can take anything you want to that rock. Whatever it is, you can take it to a rock that is higher than you, that provides stability and safety. And it's easy to preach. It's easy to teach about. But when facing it, sometimes we become overwhelmed. Now, God knows all of your emotions. The Lord gave us our minds. The Lord knows all about who you are. He understands what it's like to be attacked. He understands what it's like to be overwhelmed and burdened and hurt. Jesus gets all of those things. And I am simply saying to you, talk it out with God. Share it with God. Whatever that may be in your life, share it with Him. God, this is where I'm at. I need you to hear it. This isn't catching you by surprise. Let's just talk it out. On my commute today, I'm going to talk it out with you. When I come home, before I re-enter my home, my kids, my children, whatever, I'm going to talk it out with you. I am going to simply give it to you. You know, I think that God understands your emotions better than you do. Why, you were created in His image, so He knows all about our emotions. God says about Himself, I'm jealous, I get angry, I laugh. You read through the Psalms and it says all of those things. I'm sad. David even complains over and over and over in the Psalms to God. And God answers in a sweet and tender way to him. Okay, David, I get it. Now listen, young man, this is what it's going to be like with me. He lays it out for him. Horses don't get jealous. Ants don't get sad. Cows don't worry. It's us. We were created with emotion. And if those emotions and those feelings and that overwhelming stuff that you're going through is given to God, He'll take it. He likes talking to you. As a matter of fact, He's waiting to talk to you. And God also loves to listen to me. He loves it, man. All throughout the Psalms, it talks about God wanting to listen to you. God saying, hey man, whatever it is, let's talk it through. All throughout your Psalms, He'll say. God is never too busy to listen to you. God says, when you come to me, I will give you joy. I will lead you with peace. The mountains and the hills shall break forth into singing for you. And all the trees of the field shall clap their hands. God says, when you and I are centered in the midst of whatever you're going through, there's joy. God's waiting to talk to you. I have a friend named John Baxter who's a pastor in Kansas City. He's a good brother. And recently went through a health crisis with COVID. I mean, literally hanging between heaven and hell for a while. He was overwhelmed. And I'll let John introduce himself and share with you his testimony about the prayers of his friends. You guys prayed for him. And how God showed in a big way for him. John, I throw it over to you.
Good morning to all of you there at the Creek. My name is John Baxter, and I am the executive pastor over at Graceway Church. And I know that our churches have had a relationship now for several years, which comes from both of our lead pastors. Our lead pastor at Graceway is Tim Dunn, and your pastor Cam South. They have been friends for decades, and that has brought us together. And Pastor Tim introduced me to Pastor Cam several years ago, and we became fast friends through that. And Pastor Cam and I have been in touch a lot more here over the past couple weeks because I've been battling COVID. And I battled COVID on my own for 12 days. On day 12, I was hospitalized. I spent 9 days in the hospital being treated. And now I've been home for almost 2 weeks. And I just want to thank you for the prayers that you gave during this time of just fighting a really hard illness, a hard time on my family, and now recovery. So Pastor Cam let me know that you guys were lifting me and my family up to the Lord during that time. I just want to thank you because there is not a single doubt in my mind that I would not be sitting here today if it wasn't for so many people praying. And I had a lot of people praying at Graceway as well and throughout our network. And I want to tell you, one of the reasons I had so many people praying at Graceway is because my time with COVID landed right in the middle of a prayer season that we have. So every 6 months at Graceway, we have a 21-day prayer time. So for 21 days, we put on a prayer service every single day. And that service usually consists of a couple worship songs, someone will share a brief devotion, and then we have a time of prayer. And people share their prayer requests by taking a Post-it note, writing it on a Post-it note, and then we have these boards all throughout our auditorium where you put it up on one of those boards. And during the prayer time, people walk around and pray over every single one of those. And I really honestly shudder to think what might be true right now if I had not been so sick during 21 days of prayer, because I have no doubt in my mind it is the prayers of so many that literally saved my life and still have me here today. And during that 21 days of prayer, I was scheduled to speak on day 17. But on day 17, I had only been home from the hospital for just a few days. And I reached out to Pastor Tim and said, my body just isn't strong enough, but I feel like God's given me some things that I'd like to say. So they sent a small production crew out here to my house. I was sitting in this same seat and able to shoot a video to talk about the things that I felt like God had taught me in that moment. And Pastor Cam reached out and said, hey, I'd like to show that video to the Creek. So here in a few moments, you guys will see the video that I shot then. I can tell you I was pretty weak, pretty frail, and I think it's a pretty raw video. And I hope that it's a blessing to you. You guys are a blessing to me. Pastor Cam, you are a blessing to me, and I'm just honored to be a part of your service today. And I want you to know that I love you. I'm praying blessings over you, and I am so grateful for the way our churches are together. And Pastor Cam, I also want to tell you, I don't think I'll ever forget that verse that you sent me, and I think you're speaking about it today, is Psalm 61, verses 1 through 2, where my paraphrase version during that time was that when I am overwhelmed, I cry out to the Lord. And I can assure you that I was crying out, as was my family. And I thank you for crying out too, because it was an overwhelming time. And I'm just so grateful that we have a God that not only hears us, but answers us. I'm praying blessings over each of you and so thankful for you.
Hey, Graceway, just want to let you know how much I miss you. I'd hoped to be able to be with you live and in person tonight, but just not going to be able to do that. So I'm thankful for the opportunity we have, technology. I can come to you this way. I really wanted to thank you. I want to thank you for your prayers. I want to thank you for the love and concern and encouragement and support you've shown my family over the past couple weeks. It's been a hard time for us, and I really don't have the vocabulary to express the level of gratitude that I have in my heart for what you've done, especially for the prayers that you've given on my behalf and my family. And I can tell you without question, there's not a doubt in my mind that without your prayers, I wouldn't be able to sit here right now and be with my family and be able to talk to you. And I can't wait to to be back in person with you and to see you again, so I can thank you in person. I know many of you are from churches and places all across the globe, and you may not even know me. And I just want to thank you for the prayers. I want to thank you for the support and the love and the care that you've shown. And I'd like to share two things with you that come from conversations I had with doctors while I was in the hospital. And the first one I think is very appropriate for tonight. As we move through 21 days of prayer each night, we take a section of the Lord's Prayer. And tonight is the night where we talk about, God, lead me not into temptation and deliver me from evil. And that's a hard phrase for me sometimes to digest. And I found a paraphrase that resonated well with me. I hope it resonates well with you about that, where it says, God, protect me from myself and keep me far from evil. And that makes sense to me. I need protection from myself, and we know that there's an enemy out there that seeks to kill and destroy. And one of the conversations I had with a doctor while I was in the emergency department really brought clarity to that section of the verse, that I see what a gift it is for God to include that. And in this conversation with the doctor, this was probably not at my most dire or critical point, but it was very close. And I'm laying in this bed and connected to all sorts of machines and wires and tubes, and literally from my face to my ankles, they had me connected to stuff. And I was pretty weak at this point, and I could talk a little bit still. And I was able to open my eyes and see what was going on around me. I remember hearing the door open and shut, and a doctor walked in that I recognized, which is hard to do because they have so much protective gear. Really, you can only see their eyes. And she had been working on me for quite a while, her and her whole team. And she asked me this question. She goes, "How are you feeling?" And it was quizzical to me because it didn't make sense. We both knew what was going on here. And I remember looking at her and I said, "Doctor, this thing's killing me." And she didn't even blink. She goes, "You're right. It is, and that's what I'm here to talk about." And she grabbed her chair and she sat down next to me. And she said, "This virus is killing you. And we need to talk about what's going on with your body." And she said, "Here's what you know is going on," which I knew. My lungs were in really bad shape, and there was a lot of pain and other symptoms. And she said, "You've had COVID now for so long, and you've had COVID pneumonia for so long." She listed out all these things that they would normally do that they weren't able to do. She said, "So here's what we are doing," and explained it in a way that I could understand it, and said, "Here's the path that this virus normally takes. And here's the things going on that you don't know are going on." She said, "Your liver's having a lot of issues right now, and here's what we're doing to try and help your liver. Your kidneys we're trying to protect, and here's what we're doing. You already know what's happening with your lungs. And we have to talk about your heart." And I remember she looked at me and said, "We see the pattern of this. If it moves to your heart, it's going to stop it. So you and I have to talk about what we're going to do if that happens." And we proceeded to have a very frank, very honest conversation. What they would do, what they wouldn't do, who they would call first, who they would call second, making sure that they had the right contact information. Talking about organ donor, and even if my organs would be viable for somebody else to use if things moved to that extent. And it was a hard conversation for her as it was for me. But it was really candid and really honest and really pure, to be honest. I remember she took her notes and she stood up. She looked at me and said, "Keep fighting. We're doing all we can to help you." And she walked out. I remember the door closing, and it took me a minute to really realize the conversation I had just had. And there's some fear that came with that. Fear if I fall asleep, will I wake up again? And you start thinking through all sorts of strange things. Insurance policies, and what's that phone call going to look like for my wife? Who's going to be there to talk to my kids? And I had this this exercise that I would put myself through occasionally while I was laying there, and it was just a thankfulness exercise. And it was hard when I got to the point where I was just trying to find places in my body that didn't hurt that I could be thankful for. And I remember starting that exercise and thanking God that the end of my nose didn't hurt. Thanking God that my toes didn't hurt right then. And thanking God for a doctor that would come in and have a really honest conversation with me. And I was really grateful for that conversation. And I equivocate that to what God does when he puts into this prayer, lead me not into temptation and deliver me from evil. Because what he's doing is exactly what that doctor did for me. The doctor walked in and said, you know you have this going on, but hey, John, you got all this other stuff going on below the surface you don't even know about that's killing you. And God says, hey, you know there's evil over here, and you know that its only intent is to steal, kill, and destroy. You need to be praying against that every single day. And by the way, you have all this other stuff going on inside you that you don't even know is there, and it's killing you. You need to ask for protection against yourself. And I can tell you, whenever I was laying there thinking through that, God showed me things in my life that I had that I didn't even know, that I had pride in my heart in certain areas. And while I can't say I'm cured from it, he certainly stripped a lot of it away over the last week or so. And I remember praying for you and praying, God, please don't take people to within a hair's breadth of their life for them to have to know what's inside them that they need protection from. And so I'd encourage you tonight, ask God to show you what's there. I don't know if it's pride, arrogance, selfishness, anger, but you've got something that's below the surface that you need protection from. And God will show it to you because he's a good and he's a loving God. And just know that I'm praying for you, that God will show you those things as well. If you want to see it and you lean into it, we've got to keep praying. That leaves me, I told you there were 2 conversations I had with doctors. The second conversation that took place was with a doctor. And this probably wasn't my most dire, most critical point, where I'm laying in a bed. I really couldn't open my eyes. I could barely talk. Every ounce of energy I had was really just trying to breathe. And they lay you on your chest because it helps your lungs, so you really can't see what's going on around you, but you can hear. And I heard the door open and close. And I heard somebody walk in, and the doctor introduced himself. And I remember him coming over to me, and he put his hand on my shoulder. And he got real close to my ear so that I could hear him, because they have to wear so much protective gear. Sometimes it's hard even to communicate. And he said, John, we're doing everything we can to help you. And I want you to know you're not alone. Every doctor, every nurse is fighting with you. And I couldn't talk back. And I remember he said, can you hear me? And I could nod my head a little bit. He said, good. He said, you've got to keep fighting. And whatever you do, don't lose hope. We're in this together. And at that point, I had tears starting to run down my face. I know you could see him because he was there. And he just stood there in the quiet with me. He got this hand on me. And he gave me a squeeze. He said, John, keep fighting. And whatever you do, don't lose hope. We're in this together. And Graceway, if I could be there with you tonight, I would love to do the same thing with you. I'd love to put my arm around you and squeeze your shoulder and lean in close and say, keep praying, keep fighting. We're in this together. Don't lose hope. God hears your prayers. God sees your post-it notes. He knows what's in your journal. And when you're too weak to speak, he can hear the cries of your heart. And he loves you. Grace, we keep praying. Keep fighting. We're in this together. And I love you.